Have you ever dreamed of a place where no one ever ages? A perfect town frozen in time where every face remains untouched by years. What if I told you that such a place exists, but behind every youthful smile hides a secret so dark it devours your soul? Today, you'll walk into that town, but be warned, once you enter, you may never leave the same. The asphalt stretched endlessly ahead, the edges crumbling into dirt where the forest clawed toward the road. Claire Morgan tapped her fingers anxiously against the steering wheel, the radio buzzing with nothing but static. She glanced at her phone. No signal. The GPS had frozen 15 minutes ago, stuck on an unnamed road. A shortcut, the gas station clerk had said. Only 15 minutes off the main highway. You'll pass through a small town, but keep driving straight, he promised. But 15 minutes had stretched into almost an hour. Through the dense wall of trees, she finally saw it. Marrow's End. A town that looked like something from a faded postcard. Bright white houses with red shutters. A perfectly manicured main street. Children riding bikes. Elderly couples strolling arm in arm. Yet, none of them seemed to age. Their hair was thick, their skin flawless, their smiles too wide. As she drove through the town square, Claire felt a chill. Every pair of eyes turned to her. They smiled, but none of them blinked. A sign hung from an iron arch. Marrow's End, where time stands still. She should have kept driving, but her gas gauge blinked empty. Claire pulled up beside a general store and stepped out into the unnervingly clean air. The woman behind the counter greeted her with a wide smile, teeth impossibly white. "New around here?" the woman asked. Claire nodded, hesitant. "Just passing through," she replied. "We don't get many visitors," the woman said, voice sweet but mechanical. "You must be tired. Stay the night. We have a lovely inn. First night's free for newcomers." Every instinct screamed no, but her options were limited. No gas, no signal, rain clouds looming overhead. Claire agreed. The inn was a pristine Victorian mansion, flower beds bursting with impossible colors despite the dying season. The innkeeper, Mr. Carlyle, looked about 40, fit and vibrant, but his eyes were ancient. "You'll love it here," he said, handing her a brass key. "Most people find it very restorative." The room was cozy, too cozy, like a dollhouse imitation of comfort. Floral wallpaper, thick quilts, a pitcher of lemonade waiting on the nightstand. Claire sat on the bed, unease tightening around her chest. Something was wrong. The town, the people, the air itself, not just clean, but sterile, like it had been scrubbed of time. She pulled the curtains aside and peered out. Across the street, a little girl on a tricycle stared up at her window, unmoving. Claire let the curtain fall, heart hammering in her chest. Night fell fast, and with it came the singing. It started low, a hum drifting on the breeze. Claire stepped into the hallway. The inn was silent, but outside, figures gathered under gaslight lanterns. They stood perfectly still, hands clasped, swaying slightly, singing a wordless melody. It was hypnotic, discordant, wrong. Claire's blood ran cold as she spotted the little girl again, now among the adults. Her lips moving in perfect sync with the song, and then, every head snapped toward her window. All at once, Claire stumbled back, pulled the curtains shut. She had to leave. Now, she grabbed her backpack and rushed down the stairs. Mr. Carlyle stood at the bottom, blocking the door. "Leaving so soon?" he asked pleasantly. "I forgot something. At home," Claire stammered. "Home," Carlyle repeated, as if tasting the word. She pushed past him, heart racing. Outside, the townspeople still sang, their smiles twitching at the corners. Claire jumped into her car, turned the key. Nothing. Dead engine. She cursed and sprinted to the gas station. Closed, boarded up. She banged on the door. No answer. Movement caught her eye. The townspeople were gliding toward her, their feet never touching the ground. Panic surged. She ran blindly into the side streets. Alleys twisted impossibly, leading her back to the town square, no matter which way she turned. The town folded around her, a maze, no way out. Breathless, Claire collapsed against a wall. A cold hand gripped her shoulder. She turned. It was the little girl. "You don't belong here," the girl whispered. "But it's too late now. You've seen the truth." Claire looked around. The town shimmered, the people distorted, faces melting into inhuman forms. And then, everything went black. Claire woke up lying on cold marble tiles. The sky above her was gray and cracked like old porcelain. She staggered to her feet. She was no longer at the inn, no longer on any street she recognized. Around her rose the same town, but decayed. Buildings sagged, rotted, draped in vines. The air was thick with the scent of earth and something sweet, like rotting fruit. The square was empty. No children. No couples. No song. A tattered sign swung above her head. Marrow's End. Feed the heart. Live forever. Claire shivered. Her heartbeat echoed unnaturally loud in her chest, as if the ground itself were listening. She stumbled toward the general store. Inside, shelves lay toppled, goods rotted to sludge. Dust motes thick as snow floated in the stagnant air. On the counter lay a book, old, leather-bound, its pages flipped open by an invisible breeze. Names were scrawled inside, hundreds of names, and Claire found hers near the bottom. Next to it, one word: assimilation. A creak sounded behind her. She turned, the woman from the store. But now her smile was cracked wide, skin stretched too tight over bones. Eyes hollow, flickering. "You should have stayed," the woman hissed. "Now you'll stay forever." Claire bolted, out into the twisted streets. The town warped around her. Every turn looped back on itself. Dead ends appeared where alleys should have been. Familiar faces emerged from the mist, but their bodies sagged like melted wax. At the center of town, the clock tower loomed. Its hands spun wildly, blurring time itself. Claire remembered the gas station clerk's words. "Pass through, don't stop." Too late. In the clock tower's shadow, the townspeople gathered again. Their singing returned, but slower, heavier, dragging the very air down. Claire realized this was no town. It was a trap, a machine designed to harvest time, to freeze souls in an endless cycle of youth and rot. She sprinted toward the clock tower, the only landmark not decayed. Inside, stone stairs spiraled up into darkness. She climbed, the air growing thinner with each step. At the top she found it, a great heart, black and pulsating, suspended by chains. Each beat sent ripples through the air, distorting reality itself. Carved into the walls were more names, the same names from the book, scratched deep with bleeding fingers. A pedestal stood before the heart. On it, an iron dagger. Claire knew what she had to do. Instinct screamed it, destroy the heart, end the cycle. As she reached for the dagger, the townspeople flooded into the tower below, their distorted voices rising in a single, mournful wail. The walls bled, the floor cracked. She seized the dagger and drove it toward the heart. But the air thickened, resisting her like molasses. Hands clawed up from the floor, grabbing her ankles. She struggled, fought, screamed. The blade pierced flesh, the heart howled. A sound not heard but felt, vibrating through bone and blood. The ground shattered. Claire plunged downward, falling not through space, but through memories. Each face she had seen, the smiling children, the ageless couples, flashed before her, twisted by centuries of stolen time. She landed hard in darkness. Gasping, she sat up. Around her stood dozens of versions of herself. Younger, older, broken, whole, all staring with hollow eyes. "You can't leave," they whispered in unison. "You're part of us now." Claire clutched the dagger to her chest. She refused. She pushed to her feet and ran, through endless halls lined with mirrors, each reflection showing her trapped in Marrow's End. Smiling, singing, fading. She ran until the halls dissolved into mist, until the mist thinned into light. And then, Claire burst awake in her car, engine humming softly beneath her. The road stretched empty ahead. Sunlight spilled across the cracked asphalt. Her phone buzzed to life, a map blinking, real roads, real exits. Was it a dream? She touched the brass key still clutched in her hand. It wasn't. In the rearview mirror, she saw it. A single child on a tricycle, smiling, waving, waiting. Claire drove without looking back. The tires hummed against the cracked asphalt. Each mile should have brought relief, but instead, an invisible weight settled over her shoulders. The town might be behind her, but something wasn't. The key she clutched grew warmer, almost alive. She dared a glance in the rearview mirror. The child on the tricycle was gone. But in his place, fog rolled across the road, swallowing the horizon. Her GPS blinked erratically. The blue route spiraled into loops, as if leading her back to where she started. Claire tightened her grip on the steering wheel. No, not again. She turned off the GPS and floored the accelerator. Trees blurred past, the road narrowed, sunlight flickered like a broken projector reel. And then, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. She swerved. The car crashed into a ditch, airbags exploding with a deafening hiss. Pain bloomed across her ribs, her vision blurred. But Claire forced herself out of the car. The figure stood calmly by the roadside. It was her, an older version. Lines carved into her face, eyes hollowed by decades of regret. The older Claire spoke without moving her lips. The road always leads home. The world twisted. The forest around her dissolved into the crooked streets of Marrow's End. The clock tower loomed once more. The townspeople sang louder now, closer. Claire stumbled backward. The brass key pulsed in her palm, burning her skin. She understood now. The key wasn't to escape. It was to lock her in. Panic surged. She ran, through alleys that closed in on themselves, through doorways that led only back to where she started. Everywhere she turned, reflections of herself watched from windows. Some wept, some laughed, some reached out, pleading. The ground split open. From the cracks, vines slithered upward, wrapping around her legs. She fought, tearing free. The clock tower bells tolled. Once, twice, 13 times. A final, wrong chime that shook the earth. Claire fell to her knees. In front of her, the heart appeared again. But this time, it wasn't suspended. It beat inside a colossal figure stitched together from dozens of faces. Faces she recognized. Neighbors, children, herself. The figure leaned down, its stitched mouth groaning open. "You chose to stay," it said in a voice that was hundreds layered into one. Claire shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I never chose." The figure laughed. "You did the moment you turned the key." Claire looked at the key burning her hand, a choice she never realized she made. The figure lunged. She dodged, sprinting toward the base of the clock tower. Inside, the stairs twisted like a living spine. She climbed. The higher she went, the heavier the air grew. The heavier her own body became. Memories slammed into her with each step. Birthday parties that blurred into funerals. Promises made and broken. Regrets sharpened like knives. At the top, she found another Claire. This one younger. Innocent. Sitting by the clock gears, humming the townspeople's song. The young Claire looked up. "You forgot," she said. "Forgot the deal." Claire knelt, breathing ragged. "What deal?" The young Claire smiled sadly. "You wanted to stay young forever. Everyone does." Marrow's End listens. A memory, half buried, clawed its way up. Claire at 15, wishing, praying, never to grow old like her mother, to stay free and full of life. She thought it was childish nonsense. But in Marrow's End, wishes had weight, and they never came without cost. Claire backed away. "No, I was a kid. I didn't know." The young Claire stood. "The town doesn't care. A wish is a wish." The clock's gears groaned. Time slowed. Reality fractured around her. Through the cracks, she saw 1,000 versions of her life. Some beautiful, some horrific. All paths she would never walk unless she chose. Claire gripped the brass key. One chance. She could accept the cycle, live endlessly in illusion, or break it, even if it meant losing everything she knew. The stitched figure reached the tower, its massive hand crashing through the walls. The young Claire reached out. "Come back to us, it's easy." Claire looked at her older self, the stitched townspeople, the heart of the machine. She saw the trap clearly now. Freedom required sacrifice, pain, loss, growing old, but it was real. Claire stood, chest heaving. "I choose to leave," she said. The tower screamed. The town howled. Claire slammed the brass key into the clock's center gear. The world convulsed. Light exploded from the tower, shredding the stitched figure. The vines recoiled. The song ended mid-note. Claire fell, tumbling through memory and dream and time, until she crashed back onto asphalt. Claire opened her eyes. A highway stretched ahead. No mist, no song. The car was wrecked behind her, but she was free. She staggered forward, every step painful but real. Ahead, a sign. "Now leaving Marrow's End." The letters peeled and faded as she watched, the town erasing itself. Claire smiled through the tears. Real life waited. Real time. And she would face it, even if it hurt, especially because it hurt. Claire walked for hours, each step a reminder that she was finally free. The air tasted different, raw, wild, painful, but it was real. She limped along the roadside, thumb outstretched when she heard an engine approach. A rusty pickup truck pulled over. An old woman with kind eyes leaned out. "You all right, sweetheart?" she asked. Claire hesitated. The woman looked normal. Everything felt normal. But the paranoia clung to her like a second skin. I need to get away from here," Claire said. The woman nodded. "Hop in. Closest town's about 30 miles. Claire climbed into the truck. The seat creaked under her. As they drove, Claire stared at the landscape. Empty fields, distant trees swaying under a bruised sky. No stitched monsters, no impossible clock towers, just the world as it should be. Relief settled into her bones. She leaned her head against the window and closed her eyes, letting herself drift for the first time in what felt like centuries. But somewhere deep inside, a whisper coiled. Is it ever really over? The truck jolted, hitting a pothole. Claire jerked awake. Something was wrong. The sky outside had darkened into an unnatural gray. The trees bent backward as if fleeing. The driver's hands clenched the wheel, but they weren't hands. They were gnarled, blackened roots twisting around the steering column. Claire's breath caught. She looked at the woman, whose face was no longer kind. It was hollow, mouth stretched into a permanent grin, eyes weeping black tar. "Almost home," the creature crooned. Claire scrambled for the door, locked. She pounded on the window. The road outside twisted, rising like a serpent. The landscape inverted, fields melting into oceans, forests fracturing into empty, screaming cities. The pickup truck dissolved beneath her. Claire tumbled into nothingness, spinning, breaking. She landed hard on cold, cracked concrete, gasping. Darkness surrounded her. Only one thing existed, a rusted door in the void. On it, carved in shaking letters, one last choice. Claire stood, trembling. Her hand hovered over the doorknob. Behind the door, a heartbeat pulsed, familiar, terrifying. She could walk away, turn into the darkness, disappear, or she could open it, face whatever waited. Claire closed her eyes, pressed her palm against the door, and pushed. The world snapped into focus. She was back in Marrow's End. The town stood silent. No singing, no stitched figures, just stillness. Claire wandered the streets, storefronts frozen in decay. The clock tower rusted and collapsed. She saw herself, sitting on a bench. Young Claire, laughing with friends long gone. She saw her mother, waving from a porch that hadn't existed for 20 years. Ghosts of memories played around her like a broken record. Claire stumbled into the town square. At the center, a well. Inside, her reflection stared back. But this time, it wasn't warped. It was her, older, scarred, but real. A voice drifted from the depths. "You can leave, if you give back what you took." Claire swallowed. "What did I take?" she whispered. The reflection smiled sadly. Time. The realization crushed her. By wishing for eternal youth, she hadn't just paused her own time, she had stolen it from everyone else. The children who never grew, the adults who never aged but faded into madness. Marrow's End hadn't trapped her. She had trapped it. Tears blurred her vision. She knelt by the well. "I'm sorry," she said. The ground trembled. The sky cracked open. From the well, the reflection reached out, offering a hand. Claire took it. Pain flooded her. She felt every year she had denied, every moment of sorrow and joy she had skipped. Her body aged in seconds, hair streaking with gray, wrinkles carving deep lines. But the pain brought clarity, brought peace. When the earthquake stopped, Claire stood in an empty field. No town, no ghosts, only wild grass swaying under a golden sun. Freedom, real, imperfect life. Claire laughed, a sound torn from somewhere deep inside. She turned to walk forward, when she heard a soft metallic click. Behind her, a child sat in the grass, the same child on the tricycle. He smiled sweetly. "Want to play?" he asked. In his hand, he held a brass key. Claire froze. Her heart pounded. She turned away, refusing to answer. The child's laughter echoed, high and cold. The grass under her feet blackened. The sky dimmed. Claire ran. But no matter how far she went, the child followed, the key glinting in his hand. Somewhere, deep within Marrow's End, a clock tower began to rebuild itself. The gears clicked, the song started anew, and the town smiled, waiting, always waiting.